pre-algebra friends. I hope you're doing well. I decided to start my video review sessions that I promised you a little bit early. I know a few of you have been sick with the flu or the stomach bug that's going around, and you've missed a couple days of school, and you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed by all the work that we covered. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to learn through a video how to complete a box plot that we learned in class just a couple days ago. I hope you're all doing well though, and that you will enjoy learning some math on this snowy Sunday morning. Anyway, today we're going to make box plots, and this fits in with lesson 11.2 in your Go Math book. Box plots are a really fun way to give us a lot of information when we analyze the data that it represents. And some of you might wonder why we're using box plots or what they're used for in the future. Well, I use it every year as a 6th grade teacher, so it's applicable to life there. But I know that it's used in showing research data, and that engineers sometimes use it, and scientists, and all those great fields. So when you become fantastically famous as a researcher, or that you're an engineer that propels us to Jupiter, then remember the little people, like your 6th grade teacher, Mrs. Collier, who taught you how to do this, okay? All right, my friends. So before we jump into box plots, there's something else that we have to make sure that we understand, and that's the median. You learned the median last year, but it's a prerequisite skill, or a skill that you need in order to be able to do box plots successfully. And so here's a set of data, and let's find the median of it. Whenever I write the word median, I like to write it like this, to remind me that the median is the middle value in a set of data, okay? And before we even look at the median, we've got to put all of our data values in numerical order from least to greatest. That's really important. That's going to change our value for sure. So I'm going to look at all these data values, and I'm going to put them in number order from least to greatest. 2. Cross it off as you go so that you don't miss any numbers. It's really easy to do that, especially when it's a longer list. 5, 6, 7, and 9. And it's always worth it to double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I should have 7 values. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Awesome. So I'm all set. So in order to find that median, you might remember this. We end up taking, crossing off. You can do it lightly with a pencil, or I'm going to use this color pen. Cross out the minimum and the maximum number until you get to the middle. As we keep on going, we find out that our middle value, or our median, is 5. It's as simple as that. Median equals 5. Okay? Sometimes it gets a little tricky though, and you have an even set of data. Let's see how you tackle that, okay? So our first step, you guessed it, is to put it in order from least to greatest, just like last time. And so I'm going to put in 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 9. Okay, same thing as before. We're going to cross off our minimums and maximums until we get into the center, the middle, okay? And look at that. We have 2 numbers in the middle. And so I know you're all shouting at your computer screen right now that we find the average of these two, okay, or the middle of these 2 numbers. And so we would add them all up. Mentally, I get 11, divide that by 2, and I get 5.5. So our median is 5.5, or 5 5/10, however you'd like to say it. And so it is the middle value, or the median, is 5.5. If you didn't catch how I got that, I added 5 plus 6, and I find the average of it, which is 11. And 11 divided by 2 is 5 1/2. Okay? All right, ready to move on? I'm going to give you another set of data, and you can pause your video so that you can get a quick piece of paper and you can try it. Okay? Pause your video. Awesome. You should have a piece of paper right now and a pen, and go ahead and try and find the median. Go ahead and pause again if you need to. And I'll solve it for you now to check your work. 3, 5, 7, 7, 9, 12, 14, and 18. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Awesome. So I've got all my numbers there. I'm going to cross them off until I get to the center. And I have 7 and 9. So I've got to find the average of these two. 7 plus 9 equals 16, and 16 divided by 2 equals 8. And I also know that 8 is the middle of 7 and 9, and so 8 is my median. Feel pretty confident with that? You should, okay? So if you don't, go ahead and rewatch the beginning of the video until you get it, because you need this prerequisite skill in order to be able to do box plots, okay? So looking at the picture of a box plot again, this is going to be what we're creating. Of course, there'll be a scale down here with numbers, but you're noticing that there are going to be different parts of our box plot, okay? This number in here is actually going to be a median, okay? And so that's where we're going to start with our box plot. And let's go ahead and pull up a question to see what we could do with it. This is a type of question that you might get for a box plot. 6 students ate lunch with Miss Smith. During lunch, they shared a box of Reese's Pieces. Using the data, create a box plot and label the median, the lowest value, which is known as the minimum, the highest value, which is known as the maximum, upper quartile, and lower quartile. And then how many Reese's Pieces each student ate are listed: 11, 12, 10, 7, 9, and 18. Go ahead and take a second to reread that on your own for just a minute. Okay, there's a lot of vocabulary words that are new to you here, and that's okay. It's actually not that complicated once we break it down, okay? So don't fret. But we're going to use what we just learned about the median in order to create this box plot. So I have a scale here. We're not going to need that quite yet, but what we are going to need is to, just like we did before, put our data values in order from least to greatest, okay? So 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 18. And I know that the question asked me to find the median, and I know that the median is a really important part of my box plot. So let's go ahead and find the median of all of these numbers. I'm going to cross it off lightly because I'm going to need these numbers again. So make sure you can read through it. Don't like scribble out or anything like that. And I noticed that I've got that problem where I've got 2 median numbers in here. I've got 10 and 11. And so I'm going to have to find the average of those two. I would add them up and divide by 2, but this one's kind of easy. I know that it's 10.5. You with me on that one? Yeah. Okay. So I'd add them up, divide by 2. I'd get 21 divided by 2 is 10.5. So my median is 10.5. Okay? So right here, I'd have this median of 10.5. And I like putting it like that because if you see that I kind of split my data values into 2 parts. I have a lower half and an upper half. Do you see that? Okay. That's going to help us to get those terms of upper quartile and lower quartile. The upper quartile and the lower quartile are simply the medians of the lower half and the upper half. Okay, so we've got these 3 data points. Like here's our median that splits our data. Okay, and so all the numbers to the left of that is going to be my lower half, and I'm going to find the median of these numbers. There's only 3, kind of easy to find, right? So if I look at these values, my median is 9. Do you agree with that? Yeah. So that 9 is called our lower quartile. The lower quartile equals 9. It just means it's the median of the lower half of data, the lower half of our data. That's not so shabby, is it? All right. And so we're going to do the same thing with the upper half of our data. So we're going to look at these 3 numbers. Since this is our dividing point, our upper half is up here, and we're going to find the median of those numbers. And our median is 12. So our median of our upper half is known as the upper quartile, and that equals 12. And that is the same thing as the median of the upper half. Okay, so these values are really important for our box plot. Okay, once we understand those, we're going to be able to put them into our number line here. So how we start is we go ahead and we plot the median value. I see that it's 10.5. And so I count it by twos. Make sure that your scale is appropriate when you use it. That includes all the values that you need. Make sure it's evenly spaced. Don't jump over numbers. Notice that I turned my paper to the side so that I could use the lines of my paper to help me. So if you don't, if you want to take your time and do that, that would be better for you in the long run for sure. And that would make you MEAD ready, okay? So here's my 10, here's my 11. So I'm going to go right in between the two. I kind of float my dot above it. In line or in box plots, for some reason they have our data set up above the line for some reason. I'm not exactly sure why. I'll have to look that up. Then I'm going to plot my point for my lower quartile. My lower quartile was 9, so I'm just going to float that dot up there as well. And I'm also going to plot my upper quartile, or the median of the upper half, which is 12 here. Okay? And to make my box, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my lower quartile and my upper quartile, and I put a line through them. Notice the dot is right in the middle of them, and I make a box around them. Okay? That means that's the middle of my upper values and my lower values, and I have a box right there. And notice the floating dot in the middle was the median of the whole thing. I'm going to represent that by also putting a vertical line through that dot. See that? Okay. So I have a box, lower quartile, upper quartile, median, and then how to finish, they're called whiskers. I'm going to put a dot at my lowest value, which is my 7 here, which is also called the minimum. They don't call it a minimum in your book, but they're going to call it that in the future. So I wanted to get you familiar with that word. I'm going to put a point at 7 for my lowest value or my minimum. And then I wanted to put a dot or a point at my maximum value, which is 18. And I'm going to extend out lines to the sides, and we call those whiskers. Okay? That's as simple as it gets. But sometimes you're just given a box plot that looks like this without the numbers. I can look at this box plot to be able to determine all of these things. I can look at it and say, okay, my median is 10.5, that middle value, or 10.5. My lower quartile was that lowest number, or the lower number of my median of my lower half, and that was 9. My upper quartile was the median of the upper half of those numbers, which was 12. My lowest value, or the minimum, was 7. And my highest value, or the maximum, was 18. So if someone was looking at these box plots, I'm sorry, that scooted down for you. If somebody was looking at this box plot, then they would be able to gather all of that information without seeing numbers. Make sense? Okay, so what we're going to do right now is I'll give you another box plot and a question. You go ahead and pause your video to read that, get a piece of paper, try it out, and I'll make it for you after you're done pausing the video and try it on your own. Okay, so hopefully you paused your video in time. If not, back it up. But let's go ahead and tackle this problem. The students in Mr. Phillips' class took a pre-test for Chapter 7. He would like to analyze the results of this test to inform his instruction. Create a box plot for Mr. Phillips to help him draw conclusions about his class's performance. The scores are, and then all the scores are listed. So the first thing that we're going to do is order our numbers from, yeah, you got it, least to greatest, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. I'm noticing 24, 25, let's see, it looks like 37, 39, let's see, 40s, I got 49, I don't see any 50s, 64, 70, no more 70s. 82, 82, 84, and 93. Let me double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Awesome. Okay, so notice I had these two kind of hang off the side. If that happens to you, make sure you just remember them and that you cross them off in the same order, that the highest value and the lowest value get crossed off at the same time, okay? So since I am trying to find the median, my first job when I'm making a box plot is to find the median of all the numbers. And I'm going to cross them off really lightly because remember, I'm going to use those numbers again to find the upper quartile and lower quartile, okay? So I'm going to cross off lightly so I can still see them. 93, 84, keep moving towards the center. And I have one number as my median, which is 64. I'm going to go ahead and record that right away down here so I don't lose it. Okay, got it? All right. So now I have a lower half and I have an upper half that's kind of spread out here. So don't forget that I ended up having my upper half that was on two lines. I did that on purpose because sometimes that happens and you lose track of your paper spacing, and I want you to know how to tackle that problem, okay? So I've got to find the median of all of these numbers. This time I'm going to ignore 64. It belongs on both sides. There's one median. I didn't have to find the average, and so I'm going to ignore that 64. I'm not going to include it on both sides of my median. This was my median. So it's not part of my lower half and it's not part of my upper half. It's in the middle. And so I ignore that and I just find the median of the lower half. If you remember here, the last time, my median was in between 10 and 11. And so that kind of split them in the middle. That's why I used the 10 and that's why I used the 11 in my upper and lower halves. Make sense? Okay. All right. So my lower half, I'm going to go ahead and find that lower quartile by finding the median. So again, since I crossed off lightly, I need to be able to see those numbers. So let's do this again. I'm going to find the middle. I'm going to cross them off a little heavier now this time. And my lower quartile is 37. That's the median of my lower half of numbers. I'm going to do the same for the upper half. Here's my upper half numbers. Remember, be careful, cross them off from the back and find that middle number. See how I did that in order? Okay. And my median of my upper set of numbers is 82. So that's called my upper quartile. Sometimes they call it Q1. I'll talk about that in a second. I want to put it in here first. Never mind. So my upper quartile is 82. Got it? So I've got my lower quartile, my median, my upper quartile, and then I've got my highest value and my lowest value. I've got my minimum was 24. And my maximum was 93. Make sense? Okay, so let's put our dots in. My median is 64. Notice my scale, I count it by fives or tens. You see the tens, but each line here is counting by fives, okay? It won't be as accurate, but my spacing is appropriate. And I included all numbers. Remember, you can't skip numbers in there. So I got 64 is my median. I'm going to start there with my dot. That looks about right. And then my lower quartile is 37. That's way over here. And my upper quartile is 82. So my data is pretty spread out here. You see that? Okay. And so I'm going to make my box around and connecting that lower and upper quartile. So I go all the way around here and I connect these two together. Okay. Make my dot a little bigger. And don't forget, then I end up making a vertical line through my median in the center. Okay? Sometimes it's offset. Sometimes it's not always in the center. This is center-ish, but you can see that it's kind of slightly to the right of that box, and that's okay. It's not always in the center, okay? Often it's not. Then I'm going to put in my whiskers, and one of them goes to the maximum value, which was 93. And my minimum value, which was 24. And then I connect those to the box plot. So there you have it. You've got the median. You've got the lower quartile. which is sometimes called Q1. And this is sometimes called Q2 for quartile 2. And then you've got my upper quartile. Can you guess what this is sometimes called? You got a Q3. And the reason why is because you notice how it's broken up into 4 parts right now, or 4 quarters. We've got 1 quarter that ends here at my quartile 1, right? And we've got another quarter that is in here, which ends at quartile 2, or the oh, you can see that. This is quartile 1, it ends at quartile 1 here. This is like quartile 2, which ends at my median. And then I've got quartile 3 in here that ends at my upper quartile. And then I've got this whisker over here, which would be like almost that 4th set of numbers, that 4th quartile. Okay? All right, my friends, that about covers it. You can try some problems in 11.2 in your Go Math book, and hopefully that explains everything that you've missed while you were gone. I miss you. I hope you come back soon. And yeah, stay tuned for another video that will explain how to find the MAD. All right, you take care. Have a great day, my friends.